baby hasn't. It's like an ache that never quite goes away. As much as possible, I've tried to hide this from Brad. Whenever thoughts of what cancer has stolen from me fill my head, I try to counter that by remembering all the blessings I've received in my life. I want to celebrate every day, savor every minute, without resentment or regret. I have so much for which to be grateful. I'm alive and cancer-free. I'm married to a man I adore. His son, Cody, now 9 years old, has become my son, too. And I have a successful business, one that brings me great pleasure and satisfaction. When I first opened A Good Yarn, it was my way of shouting to the world that I refused to allow cancer to rob me of anything else. I was going to live, and I was going to do it without the threat of illness and death hanging over my head. I was determined to bask in the sunshine. I still am. So A Good Yarn was the start of my new life. Within a year of opening the store, I met Brad Goetz, and we were married the following spring. Because I'd suffered from brain cancer at the age of 16 and again in my 20s, I didn't have a lot of experience with men or relationships. At first, Brad's love terrified me. Then I learned not to reject something good just because I was afraid of its loss. I learned that I could trust this man and myself. How pleased I am to be loved by him and Cody. Each and every day I thank God for the two men in my life. Even with all that I have, my arms ache to hold a baby. Our baby. Brad, who knows me so well, understood my need. After discussing the subject for weeks on end, after vacillating, weighing the pros and cons, we've reached our decision. Yes, we're going to adopt. The catalyst for all this happened when Anne-Marie Roach adopted 8-year-old Ellen. I realized that being approved as parents for a newborn might require a lengthy wait, but we were willing to do that. Although we'd be thrilled with an infant of either sex, I secretly longed for a little girl. I heard the back door close and turned to find that my sister Margaret had arrived. Margaret's worked with me almost from the first day I opened the shop. Although we're as different as two sisters could be, we've become close. Margaret is a good balance for me, ever practical and pragmatic. And I think I balance her too, since I'm much more optimistic and given to occasional whimsy. "Good morning," I greeted her cheerfully, unable to disguise my happiness. "It's going to pour," she muttered, shrugging off her raincoat and hanging it in the back storeroom. My sister almost always tends to see the negative. The glass would always be half empty to Margaret, or completely empty, if not shattered on the floor. Over the years, I've grown accustomed to her attitude and simply ignore it. When she finished removing her coat, Margaret stared at me, then frowned. "Why are you so happy?" she demanded. "Anybody can see that we're about to have a downpour." "Me? Happy?" There wasn't much point in trying to hold back my news, even though I knew that Margaret was the one person who wouldn't understand my pleasure. She'd disapprove when I told her what Brad and I had decided and would have no qualms about sharing her opinion. It's her pessimistic nature, I suppose, and the fact that she's always worried about me, although she'd never admit to that. Margaret continued to glare at me. "You're grinning from ear to ear." I made busy work at the cash register in order to avoid eye contact. I might as well tell her, although I preferred to wait, but holding my news inside was impossible. "Brad and I applied for adoption," I blurted out, unable to stop myself, "and our application's been accepted." A startling silence followed. "I know you think we're making a mistake," I rushed to add. "I didn't say that." Margaret walked slowly towards me. "You didn't need to say anything," I told her. "Just once I wanted Margaret to be happy for me, without all the doubts and objections and concerns." Your silence said it all. Margaret joined me at the counter next to the cash register. She seemed to sense that her reactions had hurt me. "I'm wondering if adoption is a wise choice for you, that's all." "Margaret," I began, sighing as I spoke, "Brad and I know what we're doing." Although Margaret hadn't said it openly, I could guess what concerned her most. She was afraid the cancer would return. I'm well aware that the possibility hangs over me and has ever since its recurrence 10 years ago. It was a serious consideration and one that neither Brad nor I took lightly. "Brad agrees?" My sister sounded skeptical. "Of course he agrees. I'd never go against his wishes." Margaret still didn't look convinced. "You're sure this is what you want?" "Yes," I was adamant. Sometimes that was the only way.